Why does one Chardonnay cost $3 and another $20? It is not just about quality. Cheap wine is often engineered with added sugar, colorants, and other hidden additives you will not see on the label. In this video, we compare 7 supermarket wines from the cheapest to the most expensive, and we reveal what you are really paying for and what it might be costing you. Franzia is the cheapest wine in this ranking by a significant margin, roughly $3 to $4 per bottle equivalent when you buy the box, and the health profile matches that price point almost exactly. In 2015, a class action lawsuit targeted over 24 California wine brands for arsenic levels above the EPA safe limit for drinking water. Of all the wines tested, Franzia White Grenache recorded the highest arsenic level, 5 times the legal limit for water, the highest, out of everyone. The wine group, Franzia's parent company, pushed back. Their argument was that people drink less wine than water daily, so EPA water comparisons are misleading. That is technically true. It is also a remarkable thing to have to say about your product. Beyond arsenic, Franzia runs on bulk grapes from California's Central Valley, some of the most industrially farmed land in the country. Heavy pesticide use, maximum yield. The bag-in-box format means wine sits in plastic lining for extended periods, raising legitimate questions about leaching over time. At $3 a glass, someone is paying a cost. It's just not always you, at least not immediately, and if you think spending just a couple dollars more fixes that, let's move to level 2. Barefoot. That is where that assumption starts to break down. Barefoot is the #1 selling table wine in America, over $555 million in annual sales. It is almost certainly the wine being poured at the party you went to last weekend. From $5 to $8 a bottle, you're spending slightly more than Franzia. Here's the honest truth about what that buys you: not much, health-wise. Barefoot sources from the same Central Valley growing regions. To make cheap grapes taste like something, the brand reportedly uses added sugar, tartaric acid, and mega purple, the synthetic colorant that makes budget red wines look richer than they are. None of this appears on the standard label. The Barefoot Bright and Breezy line is actually more transparent. They disclose 3 grams of added sugar per serving and list caramel coloring, citric acid, glycerin, and potassium sorbate as ingredients. That transparency is genuinely worth acknowledging. It's also a window into what the standard bottles aren't showing you. Barefoot is not named in the arsenic lawsuit. That separates it from level 1, but the additive load, the lack of any organic or sustainability certification, and the industrial production model keep it firmly at the bottom of the health ranking. The price is low because the product is cheap to make. Full stop. So what happens when you add history and reputation into the mix? Let's find out. Level 3, Sutter Home. Sutter Home has been making California wine since 1948. They invented the modern white Zinfandel by accident when a stuck fermentation left residual sugar in a batch, and they decided to bottle it anyway. America loved it. That's a real piece of wine history. Here's what that history does not protect you from. Sutter Home was named in the 2015 arsenic lawsuit. Same class action as Franzia, same independent lab testing, same allegations of elevated arsenic levels in California budget wine. At Walmart, Sutter Home bottles start at $5.27. Let that number sit for a moment. At $5.27 for 750 milliliters of wine, you are not paying for careful vineyard management and gentle winemaking. You are paying for a product engineered to hit a price point. The decisions that get you there, industrial-scale grape sourcing, heavy processing, chemical interventions, are the same ones we keep returning to at this price tier. Sutter Home does offer a non-alcoholic free line, which shows some product ambition. The standard wines, though, carry no organic certification and no meaningful additive transparency. $3 more than Franzia's box equivalent. Roughly the same story. If this is changing how you look at the wine aisle, hit subscribe. I break down what is actually in your food and drink every video. Back to it. So far, higher price has not really meant better outcomes. Level 4 is where things start to shift, at least on paper. Woodbridge by Robert Mondavi. Now we enter slightly more complicated territory. Woodbridge is the budget label of Robert Mondavi, one of the most iconic names in the history of California wine. That parentage is meaningful. It means actual winemakers with actual standards are involved in production, not just chemists hitting a cost target. Here is where the price range matters. At $5 to $11, Woodbridge overlaps significantly with Sutter Home and Barefoot. At the low end of that range, you are buying a product with the same basic economics as Level 2 and Level 3. At the high end, you are getting something genuinely different. Here is what the marketing will not tell you. Wine investigators have specifically flagged Woodbridge Pinot Noir as one of the top red wines to avoid for mega purple usage. The price economics of a $5 Woodbridge still push toward the same industrial shortcuts as Barefoot and Sutter Home. But a French winemaker who blind tasted several Woodbridge varieties called them decent for the price and genuinely drinkable. The Mondavi connection means there is real winemaking infrastructure behind the label. Woodbridge is not named in the arsenic lawsuit. Its sulfite labeling meets standard FDA requirements. At the higher end of its price range, Woodbridge starts to earn its spot above the first three levels. At the lower end, it is competing in the same race to the bottom. Now we're entering a price point where things should start improving. The question is, do they actually? Level 5, Cupcake Vineyards, improvement. Cupcake Vineyards sits at a genuinely interesting price point, $9 to $12, where the branding says premium accessible and the health profile starts to show real improvement, but does not quite get there yet. Accessible. The name is friendly. The bottles look good on a shelf. Compared to everything below it, there is genuine progress. At this price, you need to rely less heavily on the worst industrial shortcuts. Progress. Here is what is still concerning. Cupcake appeared in the 2015 arsenic lawsuit. That is significant at a $9 to $12 price point. This is not the $3 a glass bargain bin. Health analysts continue to flag the brand for not disclosed additives used to enhance flavor. The Reddit keto community, which tracks hidden sugars obsessively, has found cupcake products with sugar levels well above what you would expect from a dry wine, suggesting additions that go beyond what is labeled. Arsenic. To Cupcake's credit, the Moscato clearly discloses 16 grams of carbohydrates per serving. The standard Chardonnay shows around 1.4 grams of sugar, genuinely moderate. Some labeling here is more transparent than the brands below. Transparency. The honest assessment at level 5 is simple. Cupcake costs more than Woodbridge and Barefoot, and that does buy you something. It just does not buy you a clean bill of health. This is the turning point, because from here it's no longer just about fixing cheap wine, it's about needing fewer fixes at all. Level 6, Josh Cellars. This is where the price jump starts to mean something real. Josh Cellars is the #2 best-selling table wine in America, right behind Barefoot, and it sits in a fundamentally different economic category. At $13 to $18, Josh Cellars is an accessible premium wine, priced for consumers who are willing to spend a little more for quality they can actually taste. Here is why the price difference matters for your health. The additives we have been talking about, mega purple, added sugar, industrial colorants, exist primarily to fix problems with cheap grapes. When you spend more on better fruit from specific California growing regions, you simply need fewer corrections. The wine is better going in, and the chemistry does not have to work as hard. Josh Cellars Cabernet Sauvignon has earned 91 points from wine critics. It sources from defined California growing regions rather than the undifferentiated Central Valley bulk market. And critically, Josh Cellars is notably absent from the arsenic lawsuit that named 5 other brands in this video. It does appear on some brands to avoid lists, but when you dig into the actual evidence, the case against Josh Cellars is significantly thinner than the case against anything below it on this list. No U.S. wine brand fully discloses all additives. That is an industry-wide issue, not unique to Josh Cellars. Within the constraints of the American wine market, this is a genuinely better product. It costs $5 more than Cupcake, and it is meaningfully different in how it is made. And now we reach the top of the list where the entire approach to winemaking starts to change. Level 7, Kendall-Jackson. Kendall-Jackson, Vintner's Reserve Chardonnay, has been the #1 selling Chardonnay in the United States for 28 consecutive years. At $15 to $20 a bottle, it is the most expensive wine in this ranking. And unlike most expensive entries in lists like this, it actually earns it. Here is what $20 buys you that $3 does not. Certified California Sustainable Wine Growing. CCSW certification is not a marketing badge. It is a verified program requiring that at least 85% of grapes come from certified sustainable vineyards with mandated winery practices throughout production. That means reduced synthetic pesticides. That means accountability built into the process. No other brand on this list has this certification. EPA recognition. Parent company Jackson Family Wines has been formally recognized by the United States Environmental Protection Agency for environmental leadership and sustainability. They have been named Green Company of the Year by the beverage industry. Solar energy, Tesla battery storage, biodiversity preservation, including falconry, a chemical-free traditional method for pest control in vineyards. The numbers: 85 calories per serving, approximately 3 grams of carbohydrates, 1 gram of sugar for a mass-market Chardonnay that is genuinely light. Full transparency, Kendall-Jackson appeared on one YouTube brands to avoid list. I am telling you that because intellectual honesty matters, but when you put that against the certification, the EPA recognition, the sustainable farming practices, and the absence from every major arsenic and additive lawsuit, the comparison to Franzia or Barefoot does not hold up. Yes, it contains sulfites. All wine does. That is not the story here. At $20, you are paying for grapes that did not need to be fixed. That is the whole difference. If this changed how you think about the wine aisle, or if there is a brand you are going to skip next time you are at the supermarket, leave a comment below. I will see you in the next one.